This is Luke Iorio, and here's this week's Meaningful Moment. You know, there are a lot of things in life that are out there that are truly complicated and challenging to solve. Coming up with solutions for world peace, mapping the human genome, calculus, deciphering whether my wife is really fine or I actually did something to get myself in trouble. All things that are mysteries to me. However, most of the time, if you're anything like me, and I have a feeling that you are, there's a lot of things that we make more difficult. We make them seem more difficult than they actually are. Things like breaking bad habits, living healthier, being happier, having that more meaningful life. These are things that don't really need to be all of that complicated. As a matter of fact, most of the time they're actually quite simple, but we get caught up and lost in the thinking of how we're going to do it. Now, the reason for this is that most of the time we start to create this really attractive vision for where we want to be after the change is made. However, when we get that picture of that vision, what that turns into is that that's the ideal measurement. And everything that we do has to be measured by that ideal, meaning we're measuring ourselves after we've made all the changes, after we've made all of the progress. And we measure ourselves that way starting right now, meaning that we're not setting ourselves up well. We're taking a complicated way of measuring our progress, and we're measuring ourselves against an ideal and giving ourselves no time to go out there and achieve it. So instead, let's start with simplicity. And let's start with simple progress. So the very first thing, if you want to break a bad habit, it's simple. It begins with commitment. That's where all habits begin to change. What is the commitment that you can make to the habit that you want to change today? What does that commitment look like? And then what's the commitment you make the next day and the next day and the next day? And then how do you surround yourself with a great support system to keep your energy high, to hold you accountable, and to help you follow through? Put that type of a system in place. But again, at the end of the day, it's just about commitment. And then measure yourself off the one commitment that you made for today. If you want to live healthier, start with something simple. Start with your grocery list. Don't buy the things that you know you don't want to eat. If they aren't in the house, you're not going to eat them. If you're looking to go to the gym or get into shape through a new fitness routine, then you don't always have to carve out the time for the gym. It could just simply be setting a goal every single day of maybe a number of push-ups, a number of squats or lunges or crunches that you do while you're watching TV. Heck, it could be nothing more than just a 20-minute walk to begin your day. The point is set yourself up for success with just one or two key activities to get active, something you know you could accomplish and make progress on. And if you do it more days than you don't, then you know that you're making a lot of progress. It doesn't have to be the ideal right away. Now let's come down to that idea of being happier or living a more meaningful life. Honestly, where this all begins is a conscious choice. It's the conscious choice first to do the things that help bring happiness out in you. It's not just setting up your situation and your circumstances to trigger the feeling of happiness, but it's designing for it. It's how do you begin your day that would set you up with a happy mindset? What are the types of things that you can do in terms of giving gratitude and recalling all of the things that are working really well for you right now? How is it that you can connect to all of the wonderful things that are already going well in your life? How is it that you can view the day forward and no matter what's on your schedule, no matter what challenges are there, you could think about how could I bring a little more, not ideal, a little more happiness, a little more joy, a little more meaning, a little more connection into whatever this is. You see, when we do that, we begin to set ourselves up for success because we give ourselves clarity around the little steps that we can take to move ourselves forward in the direction that we want to go. Most of the time, the challenges arise and where we get into overthinking is, well, what if? And we have all these different scenarios of how things aren't going to work and how they're stacked against us. But instead, if we just think it through, just that little bit ahead of time of what can I do there? What would a little more happiness in that situation look like? What would it sound like? What might I say? What would a little more meaning brought into this relationship or this circumstance? What could it look like? Where could I find it? Where can I bring more of that out? When we ask those types of questions, we get clear next steps as to how we can move ourselves forward. Now listen, I know that we don't have all the time and the money and all the resources in the world to go out and create absolutely everything that we want. But what we can do is we can consciously choose what are the steps, what's the progress, what's the focus that we're going to bring to each and every single day. And ideally, we do that in the beginning of our day to set the tone for how this day is going to go. So the next time that you find yourself wanting to make some type of change or improvement, you find yourself getting stuck a little bit in the thought process of how am I going to do this? How am I going to bring this out? I want you to look for the simpler way and then implement that simple way to begin each day. Start it that way, set the tone, and then measure yourself by the progress, by the number of days you're able to stick to those commitments. You don't need to measure yourself against the ideal now. As always, continue to enjoy the journey.